This conference will now be recorded. This conference will now be recorded.
All right, we're all good. All right, you want to check me on levels? No worries. All right, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming, Mr. Chumway. Oh man, I really appreciate this. My name is Glenn Evans. I'm with Columbia Hydronics, and I'm here to talk about how to keep your cool when the world is turning your thermostat up and down without your permission. And I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you're about to walk into a meeting and somebody shanghais you and it's like, I need this, I need that, I need this, I need that. You're trying to navigate it and you're going into a meeting, flash, your face is red, you're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to handle this? This is what we're talking about. In your career, you're going to run into that. And so just to kind of give you an idea of my background a little bit, I grew up in East LA and came from there to Alaska. And that was something that was a bit of a culture shock for me. LA was the lifestyle of the big city, and then we moved into a village in the interior of Alaska. It's not working, bro. None of my buttons are working over here. Hang tight, we have a little bit of a technical difficulty. There we go. All right, so the picture in the top left-hand side, that was just before going into the foster care system, which I was in for about 4 years, and it was tough stuff. And from there, we moved to a small village in the interior of Alaska. That was dinner there, and I was chopping wood right behind me on those pants that I had on. There's a bunch of chainsaw oil. And so from there, I got into Fairbanks. I went to Monroe Catholic High School for a bit, lived in Fairbanks, and moved down to the valley. I had a family. I had 4 kids under 4. I needed to start a career. I needed to do something desperately. And so I went through Matsu College, and through that, I started the ASHRAE program at Matsu College. And that was one of the best things I'd ever done. It ended up being the way that I ended up here today in this career. When I got out of college, I was working refrigerant tech, and that was for a cash-only job at the time. The market was saturated at that time, which now seems pretty hard to believe, but I was working for a guy who's just paying me cash every day, turning wrenches, fixing refrigerant equipment, and I needed healthcare. I had a family. I needed to really do something about that. And at the time, my only position I could get into was doing warehouse work at Ferguson Enterprises. And I maintained my contacts at ASHRAE, kept going to the meetings. It was kind of something that I'd gotten familiar with. And from there, when I started looking for another position, I got 2 offers from 2 other ASHRAE members. And so I interviewed in Seattle, and I went from being a warehouse guy to a manufacturer's rep. And again, thanks to ASHRAE, my connections in ASHRAE. And from there, I got to live a lot of my dreams. I like music. I try to attend as many live concerts as I can. I'm a dog person. That's my newest dog, Atticus. He is now 8 months old and 108 pounds. And I travel as much as I can. Traveling keeps me young. It was something I grew up looking at National Geographic magazines, and I was like, I really want to go there someday. And so I've done as much of that as I can. And this career has really helped me do that. Also, hold on, there we go. I want to acknowledge the fact that each one of you rocks. Each one of you has your own origin story. Each one of you have traversed all your own hurdles and made it to today. And I don't think that we acknowledge that nearly enough. Each one of you have had your own hurdles to overcome, your own struggle, your own family dynamics to overcome, and you did it. You guys made it to your challenges. And I think that's something that we all should spend a little more time doing. How often do you allow yourself just to enjoy your successes, just to rest in it, to rest in the home you've made, to rest in the career you've made, to rest in the relationship you've built, to rest in you, that you've shown up in your resilience. And with that, let's go into how buildings get built. So a developer describes an idea using words to an engineer. That engineer uses some more words, develops a narrative. From there, the engineer gets the approval, uses some more words and some drawings, and releases it out to bid. Contractor reads those words, uses more words to issue POs and work orders, and poof, we have a building that went from words to a place where people call home. Words made this happen. It's really, really vital to our well-being. So let's look at two different buildings. Let's say your firm was tasked to build two buildings in town, one downtown, one across town. They gave you all the work for it. And with that, you also got LEED Platinum certification on both buildings. You're getting all kinds of press. You're getting all kinds of acknowledgments, and you specifically are being acknowledged for your awesome work in making these two buildings happen. So they're running great. Everything's going well. Commissioning went great. And let's fast forward 10 years. And so there we go. So Building Z. Building Z operates as designed. It's still the standard to which other buildings aspire to. The people who live there are happy. They brag about where they live. They talk about how they have a minimized carbon footprint. Everything's going good. And you get publications asking you to talk to us. How have you maintained this building? How is it still operating this way? Across town, though, different story. The building isn't operating as good. It's using 2.5 times more energy than it was designed to need. What's going on? The owner's complaining about high turnover of employees. The people who live there are getting sick. They can't wait to move out. And you get a call to do some retro commissioning. What's going on here? What's happening in this building? And so what do? You assemble the best and the brightest. You do some site visits. You collect some data. You're going to figure this thing out. Like, how can this be? What happened to this building? And what we'll find out is it's the air handler. The filters are clogged. They may not even been changed since the building got installed. There's mold in the ductwork, and the fans are operating at max just to get any air changes in the building. This isn't how it was designed. And so you do your diagram, you indicate to the owner where you see all the deficiencies, things that need to be upgraded and changed. Recommendations go out again using words, and a team of people are employed to go make all these things happen. And what we found is the air handling unit is no longer meeting the needs of the building. And why is that? And that's because the maintenance was abandoned. When you look at yourself as a human being, how often are you maintaining you as far as your building operating properly? And is it serving your needs anymore? Look at your brain as a well-being air handling unit. The ductwork, it breathes life into your building. The clean ductwork allows your building to cycle clean air and exhaust air efficiently through the building. And the filters make sure your ductwork stays clean. The fans, that's the pace at which you run. That's the pace at which you're operating on your day-to-day. But is your fan maxed out? Are you running in your service factor daily? So the first thing you're going to do is get rid of that mold. That's something you're going to need to get everyone out of the whole building before you're going to do mold remediation. And when it comes to mental mold remediation, remember that your brain is an organ, and like all other organs, it seeks to conserve energy when your resources are low. So in a mathematical equation, if you've made it efficient to think crappy about yourself, what is your brain going to do when you're tired? When you're not feeling your best, when you're stressed, when your resources are pretty much tapped out? Changing that takes a very pointed and intentional action on your part. It's not something that's just going to magically happen overnight, like fairy tales tell us that a knight in shining armor is going to show up, not knowing your name or your favorite color or your favorite band, whisk you off your feet and take you away, and you're happily ever after. That sounds like a great plan, right? That make-believe world doesn't happen, and so it's on us to make that change. And so for me, what I do is I ask myself, who? So imagine right now something that's stressing you out. You're in the moment. Someone walks in the door, is like, I think this design's messed up. Immediately, that rush of adrenaline. Is it me? Is it my part? Is it electrical? Who is it? What's going on? All of this stuff's coming up. And then this other voice kicks in and starts like, you shouldn't have done this. You shouldn't have this, that. You shouldn't have done this. Why is this happening? How come this is happening to me? All of those things. Pausing and observing that dialogue is really important. because it's a script that hasn't been upgraded probably since you're in junior high, maybe as a teenager. And that script may not serve you anymore. I don't know about you, but when I'm stressed, if I had a friend who showed up and was like, yeah, you should have done it. Yeah, that was bad. You should have this, you should have that. I wouldn't keep that friend around very long. That's not a sustainable relationship. The next thing I ask myself is, how do I feel? So I get into my body, whew, feeling stressed, feeling it in my shoulders, feeling it in my lower back, feeling it tight in my tummy. What's going on? Then I ask myself, is what I'm feeling true? Again, if I had a friend who's in my head catastrophizing, oh no, oh no, oh no, this is going to be bad, this is going to be bad, I'm not going to be friends with them very long. And yet, I allow this dialogue to live rent free in my head all the time. And it does not benefit me. And so I ask, is this true? Okay, I'm afraid I'm going to get fired. I'm afraid I'm afraid this job's going to go south. Is that true? Well, no. Do we have a good team of people behind us? Do we have a lot of industry total awesome badasses to help us do stuff? Amazing contractors and knowledgeable control people? Yes. Do they want this thing to go right? Yes. Okay, get my head back about me. And then lastly, outcome. Is this inner dialogue going to give me the outcome that I want? And what is that outcome? Is the outcome that I want to enjoy the journey in life? Is the outcome that I just want to deal with the stress and get away and numb out? What is the outcome I'm looking for? And for most of us, we want to enjoy the life that we live on a day-to-day basis. We don't want to have a life that we have to numb out from. Again, not a sustainable lifestyle. And also, spoiler alert from first-hand experience, numbing out has a point of diminishing returns. And it generally comes with lots of drama. So here's a quote from Bruce Lee that really puts it pointedly. And he says, don't even speak about yourself in a joking manner because your body doesn't know. How often do we degrade ourselves, crack jokes about ourselves, especially when no one's around? If anyone saw our inner dialogue, I think we would change it abruptly. It'd be embarrassing for people to hear how we talk to ourselves. And then we've learned from Dr. Emoto's work that water actually is affected by words. They took words and just put them on jars and then froze the water to see what kind of crystal structures they would develop. Warm words like appreciation, love, thank you, beautiful crystalline structures. Cold words, I hate you, make me sick, those kind of things. They didn't even make crystal structures. They just ended up freezing in this gnarly flat pattern. We also use, you can do plant experiments. This is one from a junior high school where they had two experiments with 3 sets of plants. One set of plants over on the left-hand side listened to a speech from Hitler. The middle plants, they just got sunlight. They had no interactions with any dialogue at all. And then the plants on the far right, they got Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech played to them. And as you can see from the 2 different experiments in the 3 pods, there is a marked difference from the left side to the right side. The Hitler, the Martin Luther King plants, larger, lots more foliage. And this is what words do to a plant. I think we're a little bit more than a plant, but I think there's a lot of similarities, especially when you look at the xylem of plants, and the chlorophyll is a lot like our hemoglobin. It's very, very close in its molecular structure. So what can we take from this? We need to realize that words are really, really vital to our well-being, and those words and how they get digested and moved around our head is going to really affect how our life goes. So how do you feel about this? That return air duct, that's past situations, things that have come up, past experience that you use naturally to try and navigate the future, the uncertainties. Outcome, your supply air. What am I going to be like in the workplace? What am I going to be like to my partner? What am I going to be like to my kids? And then you also have your return air. Who or where did this voice come from? Dialogue. I saw this. I was pausing and just watching that dialogue stuff from bullies, 6, 7. I was like, wait a minute. How is this stuff living rent free in my mind? And it's on me to evict that stuff. To say, hey, you can't live here anymore. And then also, you're exhausted. Take a few breaths, especially from your belly. Just Deep, huge breaths, and just let that air out slowly. Again, that just brings you into the moment and gives you a moment of clarity instead of letting life kind of bully you and push you around with its schedules. And as Tom Bilyeu says, when it comes down to it, all that matters is how you feel about yourself when you're by yourself. So let's move on to our this cleaning of this building and rectifying it. Filters. Why do we have filters? They get rid of contaminants. They help block particles going into the building. It helps your mental system run clean and efficiently, and it prevents clogs. And then it also protects the equipment from harmful airborne events. Pardon me, airborne contaminants. And so let's look at this air handler. We have a couple sets of filters in here. We have four exactly. We have filters going out to our supply air. That's filters how you speak to others. You have filters coming in from your return air. Again, you're filtering out your past experiences. You have your outdoor air being filtered. That's fluctuating for life's outside influences that pop in. And then you have that internal bank of filters, and that's your internal dialogue. How are we monitoring that? Does that internal voice especially have any accountability for how it talks to you? Probably not. And so benefiting from your filters is when it comes to the past, how do I want to remember this moment? Do I want to remember this challenge as like, oh gosh, I really, really messed up that time. I'm never going to do that again. Or can it be, I messed up, I reached out for help. I talked to Seth from GMI. I got a hold of Shumway from AMC. We're really, really stressed. We didn't know how to work this problem out. We got together and the thing got running again. How good of a feeling is that instead of the hammering away on yourself to, I shouldn't have. Filtering the outside air. How do I want to digest this experience? You have a choice. You have a choice in how you receive this. A good example of that is just before I got here, I got off the phone with someone who's really, really upset over something that I have something to do with. And it was tough, and it was a warranted phone call. But I have this presentation to make. I have all of you to greet and see. Sat in my truck. All right, gonna fix this. Best case scenario, things work out. But for right now, I'm gonna show up for these people. And so, how do I want to digest that? Do I want it to deep six me? Filtering your entire dialogue. Again, are you speaking to yourself with respect? It's so much more important than you even realize. And we're going to address that towards the end. And then also filtering how you speak to others. I don't know if you've been stressed and been short with people and had to apologize. You've been stressed and you couldn't even receive support because you were so in your head. That's tough stuff. That's a way to really isolate yourself, and that's not being a very good friend to yourself. So next is your fan speed. This is the pace at which you operate at. On the air handler we looked at in this building, and fan was maxed out because the filters were clogged. How many of us are working into our service factor? And again, when is this going to lead to a complete overhaul? For me, that came as a wake-up call when I went to the doc. The doc's like, hey, I have these heart medicines that you need to be on. And I was like, hey, I don't want to be on heart medicines. And he's like, hey, you're not leaving here unless you do. And that was a bit of a shocker to me. And our bodies have built within them manual resets, right? And sometimes life has to manual reset us to get our attention. So when life moves pretty fast, as far as Ferris Bueller says, if you don't stop to look around, you're going to miss some stuff. So the semicolon, pause. At Ferguson, one of the sales directors, Scooter, has right on his forearm the semicolon, so that every time he shakes a person's hand, they know that he's a safe place in case they need someone to talk to. He's an ex-military vet, and it's something that he takes very seriously. And that pause, sometimes life has to hit you upside the head, at least me anyway. Sometimes I need a hammer. Words can make you sick. Sometimes you feel like you can't stop. You start having cognition issues, dizziness, loss of consciousness, loss of drive. And then worst of all, you're fun deprived. That is not a good situation. You may have even forgotten how to have fun. And then, of course, your health issues and your body is trying to get your attention. How often do we just get used to hearing those warning signals, those alarms going off? Hit the silent button, it's just going off. You just get used to it and it becomes a normal. So what's stressing you out right now? What is it that you can't sleep about? Is it student loans? Is it paying bills? Is it deadlines? Is it the beef you have with your office mate? Is it the guy you drove here in the company truck with that drives erratically that you can't deal with? Whatever it may be, how is it piling up? And so when it comes to the mental mold remediation, one of the things that I utilize is purging. And it can be a bunch of different ways. Journaling is one of the ones that I use most often. And if you read a book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, she introduces this practice called morning pages, and she recommends you do it every single morning. I do it when I feel really locked up about things. And so it's just writing out 3 longhand pages. That's it. It could be like, I don't know what to write. This is super dumb. I still don't know what to write. It doesn't matter what you write. It's just that 3 longhand pages. And it's kind of like mental vomit. And lo and behold, around page 2.5 or 3, guess what happens? Clarity. Like, that's what I should do. Okay. Didn't even think of that. It just helps you get out of just traffic gridlock in your brain. Painting, art journaling, a multitude of art forms can be utilized in when it comes to purging. Winston Churchill painted daily. They had limited resources in order to deal with World War II, and that was his way of getting into his intuition, was painting. Then there's also people in our industry that are musicians. There's a lot of people who are even learning how to be musicians in the later days when they're retiring. Getting into music again, I like music. I like being at live concerts. You're there with a bunch of your best friends. You all love the same band. It's an amazing experience. Helps me get clarity. I'm making time for myself and I'm showing up for myself. And that's really where the rubber meets the road. So back to words again. Words affect you. Your inner dialogue. Is it out of control? There's no accountability for its harshness. And then again, it adds stress to all of our already stressful moments. Who needs a friend who's there to be like, see, I told you so. See, I knew this was going to happen. That kind of inner dialogue, it shouldn't be allowed. Constant challenge. If I'm less than ideal, if I'm not my best self, that voice is going to win. It's going to win every time. It's going to drag me down. And again, it's going to make you sick. If you follow Dr. Joe Dispenza, I don't know if any of you know him. He was hit by a vehicle and drug with his bicycle underneath a car for a block. Wake up, all his vertebrae are shattered. And he's told he's never going to walk again. And he's a chiropractor, and he's like, I need a second opinion about that. And he was told again and again and again, you're never going to walk again. And through really literally pulling a thread from the placebo effect, Joe Dispenza started healing himself, just looking at the structure of his spine and just seeing everything healing up. Joe Dispenza now walks around. You'd never know he was drugged underneath a car. But it's just another very, very pointed example of how much your words affect you. So in that previous slide, I discussed that there's the nocebo effect. I don't know if any of you know that was a new word for me, so I thought I'd bring up this definition. Essentially, when they're doing clinical trials for medicines, some clients or some patients can have such a negative pretense towards a treatment that that in and of itself supersedes the ability of the medicine to even affect them in any way, shape, or form. The same way, in the opposite way, the placebo affects you. There are some medicines that don't even make it to market because they can't beat the placebo effect, which is around 25 to 33% effective. It's pretty amazing how awesome your brain is. Then something that's affecting all of our lives right now, AI and ChatGPT. I know there's firms in Anchorage right now utilizing ChatGPT on a day-to-day basis. There was a CEO of a company called Mind Valley, Vishen Lakhiani, who told his entire staff, if you are not using ChatGPT right now, you are already obsolete, period. So what would those things be without words? What would AI be without words? And then take it even a step further. What would you be if you didn't have that voice? That voice, that script got totally upgraded, and that voice is like, hey, Craig, I think you're freaking awesome. I got you no matter what. I have you if the chips are down. I have you if you blow it all to pieces. I got you. I'm going to be here for you. That's going to net you a totally different life experience than told you so, told you, that whole voice. So this guy, Shad, really puts a point on everything. We control our own minds. Most everything in our lives, including our health, our careers, and our relationships, and our futures will get better. So remember, you're a human being. One of the other ways and quickest ways to get out of a funk, to get out of a space where you just feel locked up, is saturating yourself with gratitude. How often are you, again, like I was talking about in the beginning, resting in what you've already done for yourself? Resting in the fact that, yeah, you showed up, you do have a life that you've made for yourself. You did move away from home, you did start a family, you did move to Alaska, whatever it may be. How often are you resting in the truth of that? There's a lot of people in here that people look up to for what you've done, for where you are in your careers, that maybe you're the only one in your family that made it to college. Maybe you're the only one in your family that got this far in life. And resting in that is something you deserve to give yourself. And a lot of people get a lot crossways around, I just want to have someone in my life that I can trust. I want to have somebody that's there for me. I want to have somebody who's got my six, whatever it is. Like we all crave that, right? And rom-coms and all kinds of movies and stories are written about this dynamic. There's going to be this one person who's going to be there. Guess what? If you can't be there for you, there is no chance anyone else can ever do the same thing. And that's why this is so vitally important. So over time, with consistent practice, these same tools are the way you map yourself out of the abandonment cycle. And I don't know if any of you have ever been abandoned or left in the lurch or just had to deal with things on your own. That is a gut-wrenching feeling that most humans will do anything they can to avoid. And if you're not doing it for yourself, then how can anyone else do it? If you're not showing it for yourself, if you're not there for yourself, if you're not utilizing words that are comforting, encouraging, uplifting, how can anyone else do that to you? Because when they do, guess what happens? Well, that's nice that Amber said that. That's nice that Craig said that. Oh, she was just being sweet. You can't receive it. You can't physically receive it. And all of us crave those beautiful, beautiful compliments. But because we're not doing that for ourselves, your mind just has this imbalance that it just cannot receive that. And so as you're practicing these tools, giving yourself solid feedback, giving yourself encouragement, guess what that's doing? It's laying down the tracks so other people get to do that for you as well. And not only that, so that you can receive it. So let's say I'm at a job site and I'm really in the weeds and I need someone to just bail me out. And I call Elena and she's like, oh my gosh, I'm not sure what to do. She's like, oh, I ran into this before. What you do is this and this and just hit reset on it and it'll fix itself. That's all it needs. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I do it. I appreciate her. I'm so, so grateful. I'm off the job. I'm moving on. What do I want her to receive? My full appreciation, right? My full appreciation. And for me, I really struggled with that. A lot of times when I would get compliments, I would pivot, be like, well, look at what Dave did, or look at what Craig did, or look at what Amber did, or look at what Tracy did. Like I just get physically uncomfortable. I had to question that. I really had to look at that hard and see why is that. And so I decided to reverse engineer it. It's like, think of someone I value in our industry. There's so many individuals. There's so many people who've done such amazing things in our industry. And I was thinking, well, what if I got a compliment from that? What if Tracy McKenna gave me a compliment and said, I really appreciate that you did that? She'd want me to really receive that. But when I pivot and I'm like, well, now look what this person did, look what Jordan did, look what that, I'm not receiving. So honoring her. So the best way and I can do to honor someone who's taking the time to give me a compliment. I got a phone call looking for it and desperate to get those things. Again, by practicing these practices, by asking what's going on in your mind? How do I want to feel about this? What am I feeling? Guess what you're doing? You're laying down the tracks for you to be able to receive. You're acclimating to the goodness. You're creating a new normal. You're creating a new normal for yourself to acclimate to having that in your life. Otherwise, if you've had trauma or if you've had just bad experiences with those types of things, you tend to spiral in distance. You might even throw up some barriers. You might even have a beef with that person. Oh, they make me uncomfortable, what have you, because you can't. These practices, again, are not only vital for this. Who is the safest person for you to receive something from? You. Why not lay the tracks down with you first? You are the best, safest human being that can give you that feedback. If you start learning to receive it from yourself, guess what happens? Someone gives you a compliment and you shine afterwards. You're like, wow, that was so good. That felt so good. We do that for ourselves when the tides are switched, right? If someone comes and is like, I'm not furious, but I'm disappointed. Where do you feel it? You get all flush. You get this rush of adrenaline. Oh no, oh no. You get into your head. You start catastrophizing. All this inner dialogue starts happening. Who would you be if that didn't exist anymore? What would your life be like? How many more smiles would you have? How would that affect all of your relationships that you have? And again, you're practicing with yourself. It's opening the door to laying the tracks down for you to receive this. That in and of itself is so vital. And this abandonment cycles are all over the place. How do we abandon ourselves when we know we should eat better, or we know we should exercise, or we know we should get to bed early time, we know we should do this and should do that, and it becomes a pattern and we make excuses for it. That pattern, guess what, it happens in our lives because people mirror what you're experiencing. And the same thing happens in reverse when you're starting to flip the script. People around you, they can't help it. They have mirror neurons. Have you ever been at a job site and someone's like, this is lame. I can't believe we're having to do this. Guess what? The misery train also operates on mirror neurons. You can flip that script as well. You're right, man, this sucks. But you know what's going to be cool when it works? It's going to feel so good. It's going to feel so good when we walk off of this job and things are working and things are operating perfectly for this client. So, what's going to be your new normal? You can exist on this inner narrative for decades, but you don't have to. You can exist on an inner negative narrative for years and years and years, and it's going to net a certain experience, which generally comes to your body saying, we're done. Sick and tired of this. And again, it's on you. It's kind of like, I don't know if you guys ever read those books in junior high that were the choose your own adventure. And so you get to a page, it's like, if you want to go left on the trail, go to page 56. If you want to go right, go to page 52. That's what life is. And it really starts and ends with how the words are going right between your ears, how you feel about yourself when you're by yourself. And that's going to be mirrored in everyone you meet, every workplace you're at, every experience you're at. It's just going to keep getting mirrored back to you. And it's one of those areas that you do have control over. How do I want to digest something? How do I want to experience this? I was at an event with the branch manager from Ferguson, and we were the two old guys in this competition, and nobody was joining our team. And so Steve's like, this is lame, man. We look like idiots out here. We're the old guys. And I was like, no, man. You know how good it's going to feel when we beat these guys? And sure enough, we won 5 out of 5. And the refs came up to us like, all right, blue team, I'm actually impressed. Because we didn't have anything to lose. We just really went for it and had a great time. But the whole time, Steve was just really feeling singled out. It was like the schoolyard pick for teams. It kind of sucks to be the last person picked or nobody's wanting to get on your team. I didn't want to have that experience. It's like, no, man, let's choose to digest this a totally different way. We have a choice on it. We had a great afternoon. We had a super good time. We still talk about it today. How can you make that your new normal in your experiences with the people you interact with at work, people you interact with at home, but more importantly, the person you interact with in the mirror? And if you want to take it super next level and you really want to do a net huge growth off of this, the college level, the graduate level version of this is mirror work. It sounds super simple, but looking in the mirror and saying, I love you, Glenn. I'm here for you. There's the lady, Lisa Nichols. Her mirror work consists of three things that are epic. First one, proud of you. 7 things that I'm proud of you for. Proud of you for making it through college. Proud of you for getting your PE. I'm proud of you for waking up today. I'm proud of you for losing weight. The second one, again, you're all looking in the mirror, you say your name. Second one is, I forgive you for. Forgive you for not being as good a dad as you could have been today. I forgive you for getting upset and yelling at the people that you like. I forgive you for not showing up for yourself. Saying that to yourself is monumental. And then the last one is even better. I commit to you. Glenn, I commit to you to talk to you with respect. Glenn, I commit to you that every time there's a struggle or there's a hassle or there's a challenge, I'm going to pause, I'm going to slow down, I'm going to get my wits about me and not be bullied by life or by my own mind. And so you commit to doing those 7 words, look at yourself in the mirror, say your name, and say those things. That is really where the big work happens. And again, this is graduate level type stuff. The mirror work is something that can be really triggering, can bring up a lot of stuff, especially when it comes into the forgiveness. It's surprising how much stuff we hold against ourselves and just carry around with us. It's unnecessary that nobody else in the world even thinks about but you. And doing that type of work for ourselves is, again, laying down the tracks for other people to do that for us. It's laying down the tracks so that we can receive those types of experiences. And I've been practicing this since just before early 2020. I got my wake up call at the doc. And I really needed to figure stuff out. And since then, I've had more and more pinnacle experiences that I never thought I'd have. That little kid who grew up in a village living off of food stamps never could have thought I would be here today. And I'm proud to be standing up here and showing up for that little guy. And there's a little girl and there's a little boy in each one of you that maybe you need to revisit and give some time to, and so that they get to see the man or the woman that you've made yourself into, that you show up for yourself now, and that you allow people to show up for you as well. And then also you're strong enough to accept support and help, because those things are very humbling. And I know most of us guys are super guilty of this. What do we do when we need help? Silo. Hey, what happened to Jim? What happened to Jordan? Oh, he's going through some stuff. And so all of us back off like, oh, okay, well, I guess he's doing his thing. Nah, man, that's not it. I was at an event recently and there was a gal there going through some tough stuff and she started to weep. And what I noticed is I was just kind of watching what was going on, and all of the women in our group gathered around her. She cried for a bit. She really wept out some stuff. She was working through some things, and then everybody started sharing stories. And then she was getting her wits about her, and she's kind of coming back. There was a little bit of laughter that happened, and there's about 7 or 8 women who surrounded her. And then when she was finally back to her equilibrium, everybody kind of dispersed. Next to me, there was a guy going through some stuff, and I was like, this is my opportunity. This is an opportunity for me to show up and comfort another dude, like those women comfort that lady. And he was not having a good time. His back was hurting. I was like, hey man, how you doing? Just rubbed his back. And later on, he's like, you know what? That made a huge difference for me. Thank you so much. I was feeling so alone. I was questioning why I was even here. And thank you so much for doing that. And I think that's a skill set that we have allowed to atrophy, especially as guys. Um, Everyone can do a better job of that, of course, but I think us guys really have some work to do in that area. And so one area that I would encourage all of us to do, whether it's at a workplace or wherever we're at, is utilizing bold vulnerability. Being a little bold to say, man, I'm a new dad. I'm not sure what I'm doing. I'm not sure if I'm even doing the right thing. I'm stressed about it. Like I didn't know that being a dad was going to be this or that. Then all of a sudden you have someone who'll pipe up. Man, I was there. I was 22 and I had 4 kids under 4, blah, 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 blah. And what do you feel immediately? Relief. You're not alone. You don't have to reinvent the wheel in some situations. It's so nice to be able to share your skill set with other people, your troubleshooting ideas. and to give them a new life in someone else's experience. And through bold vulnerability, I've made a lot of amazing friends, a lot of amazing connections, and had conversations that are meaningful and matter. And isn't that what we're here on this planet to do with our words? You use words all day to build buildings, to make things work, to heat homes, to build energy plants and build fish hatcheries. All of these words are being used to make these amazing things. People live and work and laugh. They last for years and years and years. How are we going to use those words to build ourselves? How are we going to issue eviction notice to those words and those dialogues that stress us out more when we're in a stressed out situation, bring us down more when we're not in the best area? And what are we going to replenish those vacant spots with? New tenants. New tenants from compliments from Elena, compliments from Seth, compliments from Dave, compliments from Craig. Allow those to go into your heart, allow those to go into your building and nourish you. Like really nourish you. How much more could you honor somebody who actually cares about you and likes being around you, who says something kind to you? The best way to honor them is to let those words in and let them nourish your whole body. The same way we let those words in when someone's like, you did something wrong. I hear this often. I'm never going to forgive myself for that. Whoa, bro. Hold on. Never? So you're not even a safe place to be if you make a mistake? That's not cool. That's not okay. How can you be a safe place for you to be? And once you do that, it's amazing how it affects every single one of your relationships. There's also going to be some pushback, FYI, when you do make those types of changes. Because not everyone in your life is ready for that. Not everyone in your life is going to be okay with that. They might be a little bit more amiable when you don't have any boundaries and you don't say no and you always say yes and you always compromise yourself and your time and your wants to accommodate them. Those people are not going to dig it when you start showing up for yourself, and that's okay. That's part of the deal. And I also think that's kind of a gut check, like this donkey looking down at you after it bucks you off. How are things working for you? Does life need to throw you on your rear end once in a while? With that, when it comes down to keeping your head when times are stressful, it has nearly nothing to do with what's happening on the outside of you and almost everything to do with what's happening internal to you. And the more you navigate that landscape and get familiar with it and learn how to show up for yourself, it really opens the door for other people to do the same thing. And it is an amazing transformation that nets you an experience in life that you're going to like and like waking up to. And that's all I have to share in that. And I'll take any questions if anybody has anything, or how am I doing on time, Craig? Any questions? Any brave souls out there willing to ask a question or two?
Observation while paying attention.
Yes.
I have a challenge for all of you. I did this. I started doing this. I just do it. I challenge you all just to try it. My two examples. Monitor doesn't have. So it was probably like 15 years ago. I was at Cars Home, just got out of work and it was late. I was like, groceries, dinner, and all this stuff on. So I'm in line. There's this lady. She's pretty deep. She looked like she could have been. She was in front of me. She had all these groceries. And the cashier cars was looking at them and very much saying, well, you can't have this, you can't. So it was like stuff her kids wanted. She had 2 kids. And she was like trying to put stuff in the back. Kids were and it was really sad. The way she was kind of getting, she probably didn't have any idea. And so I didn't, out of a selfish place, I paid for her groceries. So here, I have to come. I want you to go. Paid for her. And because I just wanted to go home. And she just looked at me, she said, tears coming out of her. So, so much of it. Just, and so I kind of did that. And one of the things I do, I just go to the same coffee shop. I'll buy her coffee, and I'll have her take an extra $5 off the card. So give someone a free coffee. Someone that looks like, and a couple days later, oh yeah, I gave it to somebody. There's so much negativity going on in this room. It's like that can really change someone's life. And but the weirder thing is that it always comes. I can't remember what came back. Just the other day, I had to go to dinner last night, and I was late, and trying to look for a parking space. So I'm right on the street. Like this car pulls out. Right. Right. So I get off and get my credit card, pay the meter. It's like,
Nice.
so it's like, oh, no, I wonder what's going on here, right? If you pay attention and you do something generous for a stranger, then just pay attention. I'll bet you 100% something smart. No, no,
Heck yeah, man.
so give it a shot.
Yeah, I really mirror your sentiment, Dave. For me, one of the pinnacle experiences that came out of practicing this stuff for me happened a little bit earlier this year. I went to Sedona to go meet one of my heroes. There's a guy named Tim Ballard, and I look up to this guy. He's amazing. He rescues children, and I was just over the moon that I was going to be able to engage with this guy and get to meet him. And there's this conference going on. There's about 800 people there, and I got an opportunity to thank Tim for what he does. And he rescues children who are being trafficked, and he's running out of disguises, and they're not sure how much longer he's going to be able to do this work. And so I stood up and I said, Tim, he shares that he started this work when he was rescuing his older brother from being abducted when he was 6 and his older brother was 8. And he never shared that was the main reason he got into this work, was from that 6-year-old boy. And so I invited him to think about that time, that 6-year-old boy holding onto his brother's legs, running through neighborhoods and people's yards just to escape being abducted. So he was thinking about that, and it's like, let's introduce that little boy to the man you are today. Because you're the safest man on this planet. Does that little boy know how safe he is with you? And Tim's head just fell in his hands and his tears were pouring out. And the moderator, Kyle, was talking to him. And Tim finished by saying, I came here to talk to you all about how I rescue kids. And today I felt like I got rescued. And a man in front of me turned around. He's like, you did that for that man. You did that for him, man. And I couldn't have done that. I couldn't have been there for him if I hadn't first been there for myself. And to have moments like that, to be able to thank somebody and to interact with your hero like that, that's a pinnacle experience for me. And it all started from just showing up for myself little by little. I've spent the last year enjoying more love and appreciation and being cherished than I have in my entire life. I never thought that was going to happen. I never thought that would be one of the side effects that I'd have. And again, you're laying down those tracks, and it's not perfection. It's not doing, I don't journal every single day. I journal when I need to. It's the consistency of it. And it really allows you to acclimate to it. And if you've been through tough stuff in your life, you need that acclimation time. You need that time to get used to those things, especially that inner dialogue, especially receiving compliments, receiving praise, receiving those things. Pause and honor that person. Pause and just let that into your heart. Let it saturate you. Let it just move into you. And then later on in the day, when things are going sideways, think about it. Cherish that thought. Be like, man, I really love it that Becca gave me that compliment today. She is such a badass engineer. Like, that is so cool. Feel good about it. Feel good about yourself. And Tom Bilyeu just nails it down. The only thing we're doing in this life is trying to feel good about ourselves when we're by ourselves, right? It all starts with these little incremental changes, these little incremental things where you're showing up for yourself. I think we're out of time. Well, thank you all very much. I appreciate it. So just hit the red X.